Hi, everybody. Thank you. I know you can be in a lot of sessions today, and we're so glad to have you here in the room and online with us. We are Dirt Coffee. We are located in Denver, Colorado, and we are here today to share with you from interns to industry ready, the tracking skills development. At Dirt, we've always known the potential of our neurodivergent job seekers, and we want to go from intuition to actual evidence-based proof that this model works and how we're preparing people to be job ready. So we have we're really excited today to present our research with you all and our findings of the vocational work that we have been doing. All right. My name is Katarina Huey. I'm the executive director at Roots Colorado, doing business as Dirt Coffee. Am a social worker and have been the executive director now for 6 years, and very excited to be with you here all today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jenna Zeiler. I am the program director with Dirt Coffee. I get to work within all of our vocational rehab programs as well as workforce training programs. And I also come from a social work background, working in different populations, and have been with Dirt Coffee for over 5 years now.
Yeah.
Awesome. With today's presentation, our objectives is talking about creating a competency-based rubric and what that means. We're also going to be talking about the competency-based rubric in practice and how that data shows up, and the quantitative data that we have through years of findings and insights.
So we're going to start off with a little bit about us. We are a coffee shop that works with neurodivergent young adults that have never had a job or who have had severe challenges having a job. Between our two locations, we serve around 30 interns a year that come through the program. They receive one-on-one job coaching. It's a paid internship. They learn every position within the coffee shop, and about halfway through, they pick a position that they want to work. And as we mentioned, they have a one-on-one job coach with customized goal setting. Um, and between this program, we have now been running it since 2018 in the brick and mortar, which is where we built up the programming for it. Um, and that kind of leads us to replacing people in jobs, but we're finding that there are still some barriers within our ability to get folks hired and the information to better frame the program to meet those needs. So we'll start with a little bit of what did we hit that made us then make a change in our program. You know,
Couple of numbers for you all. We know that 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent. This is a pretty flexible number. We know 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent, but that only captures the folks who have diagnosis, right? We know this number is likely higher than 20% of our population. Whether somebody is self-diagnosed, is not seeking diagnosis, or does, not interested in seeking diagnosis. So this is why this conversation is so important, because it's more than 20% of our workforce in our community. We also know that 30 to 40% of neurodivergent job seekers are unemployed and or underemployed, meaning that they are actively seeking work and cannot find work, or they are in a job that isn't really utilizing their strengths and the competency that they do have, or not offering opportunity for them to grow within the company and build a career. Finally, we know that 85% of autistic college graduates are unemployed. This is such a large number of individuals who meet the standard requirements for a lot of jobs out in the community, having a college degree, and still find barriers to employment. And we know more as we're learning what those barriers can be. Over the past few years, working with both individuals in our workforce training programs as well as working with employers directly, we have learned a lot that employers prioritize soft skills, right? When they are going through the hiring process with human resources or a business owner or somebody who is interviewing an individual, they're really looking for those soft skills during the interview and utilizing that resume to supplement, right? First time workers with strong soft skills can really compensate for that limited experience. If somebody has never had a job, but they know how to be flexible and can adapt to new environments and can problem solve really quickly, they can learn those skills on the job that are needed to complete a job. Many folks start in entry level positions. That's the case for anybody. We've all started somewhere in an entry level position and been able to either learn something from that experience to take it to our next job or grow within that same company. We also have learned that if you focus on soft skills and building somebody's strengths and their competencies, you not only help somebody gain employment, but maintain that employment long term if it feels meaningful and the right fit for that person. We have, many vocational programs around the US and internationally, and there's so many different ways vocational programs look at the way that they do their work. Oftentimes vocational programs are focused on the job coaching, right? They're going to somebody's job with them and helping them adapt to a job in retail or hospitality or wholesale, wherever that is, and helping them learn the technical and on the job skills that they need to be successful. Or programs are typically focused on the soft skill training, right? Focus on some of those soft skills, but oftentimes in a very structured environment, a practiced environment. So I think about a lot of high schools that are implementing coffee shops, right? That's a great experience for somebody to learn that first time experience and kind of get used to some of those skills. What is important though is blending the two of these, having a soft skill training opportunity in a competitive and real time environment, right? Um, we think it's important to offer somebody the opportunity to adapt to competitive integrated employment while having some of that structure and that support system to help them build those skills.
We wanted to set that up because as we were working through our inclusive employment program internship, we noticed that we wanted to track certain skill growth and competency growth along the internship. And then we were working with employers in our inclusive workforce employer program and hearing from employers about what they were looking for first time hires. And as Jenna just mentioned, we wanted to blend the two because those numbers that we showed at the beginning are still way too low. And honestly, if you have a college degree and can't find a job, you're in a boat with a lot of other people. But we do know that this does negatively affect our neurodivergent folks and even further. So we want to kind of take a step back and how we came to develop our rubric. So I mentioned in 2018, we started tracking soft skills. Like we said, we start somewhere and we were working through that. In 2021, we researched and developed a vocational rubric. We received a grant to do so, so we were able to work with Core Centra in Houston, Texas, and Co-Effect in Denver, Colorado. And we also utilized information from the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, the Colorado Talent Pipeline, and then obviously the surveys and feedbacks we were receiving from the Inclusive Workforce Employer Program and really dialed into what skills and competencies we wanted to focus on during the internship. We then broke this down and created, which we will be sharing with you, each competency and a scale from 1 to 5 of what that looks like when a person achieves those different um, uh, 1 to 5. And then in 2022, we started tracking impact with the rubric. So we're here in 2025, which means we have 3 years of data now, which is very fascinating because we're able to use these data trackings to be able to, for one, evaluate our program and in what in 2024, we actually introduced a new one, which was quality control, introduced via a program evaluation that we had a PhD occupational therapist review our program and come in for. And what I do like to mention is that this list that we're going to share with you now of the competencies we chose to track is dynamic, not static. And by that, I mean that while we have to be adaptive and flexible to what employers are looking for and what we're capable of teaching within this blended site in our coffee shop. Okay. And then we broke these down into vocational skills. We have hygiene, dress code, technical literacy, transportation, customer service, and quality control. In social skills, we have verbal communication, nonverbal communication, workplace dynamics, reliability, healthy boundaries, and self esteem. And in executive functioning, time management, problem solving, coping skills, personal initiative. This all came from over a year of research that I just mentioned, working with different third party consultants to really kind of analyze what everybody was looking for. And then we give all of these structure.
So to talk a little bit more about our competency-based rubric structure, our rubric is built on a 1 to 5 system, and we track interns from a 1 needing full support to complete a task or see that competency, right? Using full prompting. And then all the way to a 5, which means that that person requires no prompting in order to follow that competency, and they are doing that independently. I will say most of the people who we're working with fall somewhere in this when they start and when they finish. We know that not every person starts at a 1 and not every person ends at a 5, right? It's very dynamic and depends on the individuals we're working with. And our goal is to see where they start within that rubric and help them grow based on their customized and individualized goals. So it is different person to person. So, for example, in time management, if an intern arrives consistently late or unprepared, or they're showing up for their 9 o'clock shift at 9 o'clock, but they still need to put all their things away, use the bathroom, do all these things, and they're not actually ready to work at 9 o'clock, that is not fully independent. And helping them grow more towards a 5, if, depending on their individualized goals, fully ready to work when they arrive at 9 o'clock, ready to clock in with all their things put away and even hands washed, ready to go. I put an example of a piece of our rubric in here for problem solving. It's another really big skill that we focus on. And personally, one of my favorite competencies to help coach. I think it's a lot of fun to help with problem solving and see that in real time with individuals. So the way that I think about problem solving is somebody trying a familiar task without being asked or prompted to do so, as well as watching somebody problem solve through a situation and utilize that critical thinking. And how we do that is through our coffee shop, right? We teach skills within the coffee shop, such as pulling espresso shots and preparing burritos and paninis and restocking and doing a lot of these more, hard skills and things that it takes to work in a coffee shop. But by doing that, we're understanding somebody's problem solving and how easily they can, take a list of items to downstairs in the stock room and bring them back up and utilize that problem solving. Okay, I couldn't find filters. What am I going to do? Am I going to ask for help? Am I going to look in other rooms? What is it that I'm going to do to work through that situation? Each individual is our job coaches assess every intern every single session so that we can really understand that growth. We are not just looking at beginning to end, right? We really want to understand that growth over time and have that feedback in real time of how somebody is doing, right? We track everybody in all 16 competencies, and it offers that really structured feedback and takes out some of that object or the subjectivity in feedback. You can give that feedback in real time. However, we can also sit down with an individual at the end of the session and say, hey, I noticed this happened. How can we set a goal to work on our time management for future shifts and future sessions? So an intern might progress from a 2 to a 3 to a 4, sometimes might even go back to a 3, but then go back to a 4, right? It's not always that consistent growth session to session, but we're looking at how can we keep that consistency for them as a coach and really stay on top of that. And the goal, like I said earlier, is to help somebody progress in those competencies across the internship. It's not to get everybody to 5s, right? That's not the point. Everybody in this room, right? We're not good at every single skill. We all have strengths and things that we're really good at. So we really want to understand what are those things that we can get somebody to a 4 or 5 and reach that independence. Maybe some of the other skills are sitting at a 3. And so at the end, we can give that feedback and say, here's the things I want you to continue working on.
So, bringing it together, what this rubric is able to do is make sure that we are intentionally focused on those 16 competencies. We're not forgetting about them. When someone comes day of, It's not just about doing the work and the tasks at hand that day. It's about looking at all 16 parts of this competency. And it's helping our job coaches. I think all of us in vocational uh, professions realize that sometimes we're bringing in folks and obviously there is a bias towards some of those competencies. You might work with someone and you would say, oh, well, for them, a one is great, or for them, three is where I think they started. We wanted to remove that from the job coaches, right? That way, this data could be a lot more valid. And so, as you saw, I actually want to go back to it because we spent a lot of time on this piece because every competency was broken down between this 1 through 5 scale to create that objectivity. And it takes quite a bit of time to do that and really sit down through all of our experiences and say, what do we believe a one looks like? Pretty much across the board for everybody and standardize that. How do we call it a two? When do we go to three, four, and five? Um, and that helps our job coaches too, right? For what they're looking for when they're working with folks. And at the end, I think that what's going to be exciting is we're going to share the insights that we have from our data. So, arriving at those insights, we wanted to just remind everybody that hiring managers are consistently saying that teamwork, problem solving, communication, dependability are some of the top needs they're looking for. What you did not hear in that is that they're looking for someone who knows how to work Excel really well, who knows how to work Canva really well, who knows how to work a POS, point of sale system, for those of you not in the restaurant industry. Um, and but they're looking for some of those skills that I think in vocational training has been hard to identify and measure. And this is where I do think we need to move forward with the research on how do we measure those skills that have been unmeasurable. But we know hiring managers, as we said at the beginning, um, can use to strengthen someone's resume and experience. Um, and along with that, in reviewing the data, we also utilized evidence-based research from a couple of qualitative and quantitative journals that we will share at the end. But I think that all come to just understand that um, we want to see what our data can show us. So for this, we are going to use our quantitative data collection, which is our rubric of 16 competencies. We evaluate the data set through different data transformations using a full data set and then breaking it up with the first to last day to pull some insights. Does supplement this during the internship is qualitative data. We do a 30, 60, 90-day review with open-ended questions to gauge participants' perceived strength, challenges, and goals, which is how we customize the internship over time. We will overlap that with a narrative here to bring some of this in context.
Wanted to share some demographics with you all because we probably have some service providers in the room, some counselors, people in lots of different roles within Voc Rehab, right? So I wanted to share who we're working with. And we've collected this data from fall 2022 to fall 2024, and we're still collecting that data. We did get a new set of data for this spring internship that just ended, but it's not included in this data. We have an average cohort size of 9.5. We are increasing those cohorts over time. And we introduced a new location in 2022, offering us another opportunity to have more interns trained in a different setting of a coffee shop. Our total clients observed in this data is 71 individuals, and we work with individuals through our coffee shop with a lot of different support needs. We are a vocational program that works with both non-supported and supported employment clients, and I think that is one thing that makes our program unique. We work with people who need foundational skills to be successful in the workplace. That can be a lot of folks, right? A lot of neurodivergent individuals need those foundational skills. It can be somebody who is going to the local community college or going to university right now, but wants to work on their executive functioning skills or their social skills to be more successful in the workplace. We also get individuals who need line of sight support and really need that one-on-one hands-on experience. So we have quite a wide range of individuals, and that's where that customized model really comes into play, and understanding that this can be applied to people across the entire spectrum of disability and neurodivergence. Our individuals are 53% men and 45% women, with a percentage of non-binary folks. And we have most of our individuals that fall from the 16 to 20 range. We all know that makes sense, right? We work with a lot of folks who are in high school. That's typically our summer programming. We see a lot of high school folks who are ready to go get a job. And then we also work with people in that transition age. That's going to be the most common, age range that we see are folks who are in that 18 to 21 program. And they're able to come during the day, during their transitions program, as a part of that program to come work with us in our program. And we do get a large range of folks from that 21 to 30 as well, because we see a lot of folks who apply to our program who maybe have had a job before, or even 3 or 4 jobs, and not able to maintain employment. They are able to, successfully obtain a job in food service, hospitality, all these entry level positions, but maybe they lose that job because they might not have had those skills to maintain it and be successful, or understand how they are speaking with their employer and engaging with customers and coworkers. And that's where Voc Rehab comes in, and vendors like us providing these services. We also get some individuals over that age range. It's a much slimmer population of folks who come through our program, but we do get people over the age of 30 as well. Our programming starts at 16 is the youngest somebody can go, but we do not have a maximum for that age range.
So we set up why we went on this journey to create the rubric, that we were trying to meet the needs of our job seekers and employers and match them, that we wanted to move beyond traditional voc of focusing on soft skills within a structured environment, or then moving someone all the way into a real life experience, but it's just task based and we're not able to measure those. So we really wanted to blend those between these 16 competencies. And what you're here for today is our findings, which we were really excited to pull this after 3 years, feeling really confident with the validity of how it had been structured, the research that went into the designing of the program, and the data that we captured through our job coaches around this. And this first one, just very top level, is from this data set and transformation. We are only looking at the first day versus the last day. So you can clearly see that our coaching model across all 16 competencies shows a measurable growth in nearly every skill across the board. So you have your lighter blue of where they started and the darker blue of where they ended in each one of these. Um, what's particularly exciting about this is that these are the same skills employers are telling us are the most difficult to teach on the job. So we're not just preparing our interns, we're solving workforce problems upstream to focus on these and have a movement that we can track. At the same time, I do want to point out some of the ones that are lower on here, which was transportation. We track transportation because we still feel like there's a conversation to be had together as a community, that no matter if we can raise the skill level on these, if transportation continues to be a barrier, that will be a barrier to employment always. And most of our folks, the transportation they start with the internship doesn't change, right? And so I do think this is just my call to the community, that we keep all focusing on transportation, because there are programs designed for it, but it will make an incredible difference to employment. Um, and then the other one was self-esteem showed modest growth, but that is to be expected because it requires a structural and longer term development within that one. But we can provide wraparound services so that way we can tell a little bit clearer. So I know this is a very big graph, but you can see the jump. I do want to focus really quickly on the data transformation from first versus last day with our top 5.
We see our top 5 competencies that have grown across the internship pretty consistently with all of our individuals being technology literacy. That is a huge one in any job. No matter the industry you're going into, technology literacy now is going to be important. We see that we can help somebody grow on average more than 2 points of growth, no matter where they're starting on that rubric system. We also see customer service. Our coffee shop is rooted in customer service, right? And not every individual that we work with will go on to work in customer service. And that's okay. I tell interns when they're interviewing for our program, you don't have to want to work in coffee and hospitality. It's all about building the competencies, right? And customer service is something unique that offers an opportunity for that flexibility and adaptability and understanding prioritization. And a lot of different skills go into customer service itself. So we also believe that customer service is a great opportunity for individuals because historically, neurodivergent and disabled individuals don't always get the opportunity to work in customer service as well. Having a front facing position. And so we really find that importance that somebody actually gets the opportunity to at least try it, even if they will not move into customer service in the future. It also gives them the opportunity to see, do I like it? Is this something I want to try in the future? Because they might surprise themselves, or it validates something that they already knew about themselves, not wanting to go into customer service, right? We also see growth in personal initiative. This is what I personally coach every single intern and try to tell them the importance of this going into future jobs. This is one of the things that sets you apart is taking that initiative in a job and really taking the next step without being asked what to do. That will give you that growth in that position in that company if that's what you're looking for. We also see some increase in quality control, which is really great in understanding the consistency of product going out into the community. And coffee, it's a little easier to see that quality control and understanding that. This is a nice balance for a lot of our folks who we do get some people who love the repetition and able to see that quality control. Then we want to see them balance that with the efficiency of putting product out as well, quality and quantity. And then finally, we also see an increase in time management. This is something that I think part of our program is just an opportunity for somebody to practice, right? Showing up on time, being ready to clock in, and understanding that it does make sense to show up 5-10 minutes early to a shift and give yourself the opportunity to take a breath, put your things away, and be ready to work rather than rushing in and not setting yourself up for that same success.
Okay, we're going to go a little deeper now because this is where I get really excited with what we can find with numbers. So to your left, and this is also for left right thinkers, it's the same information but shown two different ways. To your left, you have a skill correlation heat map. So just those of you in statistics, anything generally above a 5 means that there is a strong correlation between that data. I'm going to explain why in a second. And then to the right, you're going to see skill clusters based on the correlation. So if someone wants to see how these skills are interwoven, you can literally see how close some of these skills are together and the thickness of the lines, which means that if I were to go here, workplace dynamics as 6.06 along this line of workplace dynamics, these two, sorry, workplace dynamic is nonverbal communication. There we go. Is a strong correlation right there at the top. And then you can see in the skill-based cluster that reliability is right at the center. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But what this network of graph is most exciting about is the outputs from our data show that skills are naturally connected to one another and they can improve together across coaching session. So why does that matter? Because instead of thinking of skills in isolation of this one, this one, this one, I want to grow, we can also start to think of them as clustered skill groups together. So if you're struggling possibly with one skill rising in your from session to session, you might look at the cluster skill group instead and try to raise two others to have an impact on that other skill. Um, and so we can be more effective in designing coaching modules around those. For us, I will go to this one, kind of summaries it down. Um, it shifts our model from isolated skill scores to clusters, or what we're calling bundles of success. And key clusters I identified were communication, which was verbal, nonverbal, workplace dynamics, and customer service all rose together. So I think what we take away from that is that if someone is struggling in one of those, like we said, focus on another one in the cluster and try to raise that. In job readiness, we found a strong correlation between reliability.
Just face
reliability, personal initiative, problem solving, and tech literacy. And then in self management, hygiene, dress code, and healthy boundaries. And as I mentioned, that one of the things that we're looking at is that it lays the foundation for future mini models that that align with real world skill development patterns. And we can then pair our quantitative data with our qualitative check-ins, which we mentioned we do that at the 30, 60, 90. So if we evaluate the research for those 3, 4 weeks, we can come back and be like, hey, we're noticing that one of these skills is, not rising in what we've tended to see that the data shows us. Let's chat about it. Let's see what's going on here. It also holds our job coaches accountable for the work that they're doing and gives us an opportunity to customize that training. Um, and while I love numbers, this is where my head is just like, oh, it's so exciting to understand the feedback loops of all of this information. What does it mean in real time? So, like I said, this information did come from our participants, and we are able to also see through our data which of these participants actually had the strongest of these clusters when we went back. And we were able to isolate about 5 really strong clusters. And oddly enough, Jen and I were talking about it, and those 5 people have jobs right now. And we were like, that tracks, that makes sense, that they were rising these clusters together. And we want to kind of break that down a bit in a narrative style of one of our clients for you all.
Yeah, as I was thinking about this information in context, right? We can look at numbers all day, but when you look at the individual, it all connects and what you're seeing in real time. And I think about an individual that we worked with in 2024, and she was somebody who was a non supported employment client, somebody who came to us who had a lot of the skills maybe to get a job, but did reported to us that she did not feel confident in looking for a job and she felt like she needed that experience because she didn't really know what she was good at. And she worked with us for the 3 month internship and she became a barista during her time. And by the end of the internship, she learned latte art, which, if any of you know, latte art can take many months to years to learn and really get good at. I am still working on it. But this individual, it was really cool to see that workplace dynamics and that teamwork and how easily she fit into the, company and organization and working on the coffee bar and working as a barista. By the time that she left the internship, we had our follow-up meeting and talking with her and her voc rehab counselor and understanding if she was looking for job placement services. She ultimately was like, I'm just going to go find a job, right? I don't need that support. I will let you know if that changes. And 1 week later, I was getting reference calls from a couple different employers, and she was able to find that employment pretty quickly. All that took for her was understanding her own skills and strengths that she may have already had, but validating that experience for herself and being able to give that feedback so that she had language to take to an employer and say, here are the things that are my strengths. And I got to experience this in my last role at Dirt Coffee. And I was told that these were the observed things that I was able to do during that time. And, we hear this story often with our individuals, and every single person has a slightly different place that they're coming to us from. But it's really cool to see that in real time each and every single day within our coffee shop.
I think that one thing that we notice that we always talk about is every intern walks away with confidence and advocacy skills. Those are really hard to measure. But I do think in job readiness and the story of this client, it showed us, and something that we work on is that reliability, personal initiative, problem solving, right there in that cluster, I think that's where confidence lies. I believe that if somebody feels that they are capable of problem solving, taking their own initiative, and that they can be reliable and consistent, that is that confidence that we noticed with our clients that scored very high in job readiness when they were done. And we're also saying everybody started at a different level. Some people were like their strong cluster was at a 4, or their strong cluster was at a 3, which we talked about that scale, right? But it does show an increase of their confidence within that. So one of the things that we're looking towards from these insights is that can we build in a reflective data set that can actually capture confidence and self advocacy between these clusters. So I think that there is more research to be done on these, which is the application of designing mini modules in between that and seeing if we can get that number to go up and be able to um, assess some of those more abstract skills. Okay. All right. And then for this one is our energy curve and our velocity curve. So what I wanted to do here was understand how folks were learning information and when that growth happened. So on your left, you have an energy curve and it is a full data set. It tracks the average total score session number, score by session across all of our clients. So this is all 12 sessions that they go through and compiled over that energy curve. We're going to come back to, and then to your right, you have the velocity curve, which tells a slightly different story from session to session, how they've improved. Different data transformation used. But what we take away from both of those is you can see that the curve rises steadily and then confirming that growth isn't random. Okay, everybody does start and they can move up between their sessions. It is measurable and it is consistent. And not only that, I think the visual is powerful as it validates our coaching model can have accumulation over time that results in the beginning towards the end growth. Um, but I'm sure you all are looking at this and you're like, well, Kat, I see some drops in this graph. It's not consistently just rising. Okay. So I think that that's fascinating about the variability of the way that coaching works that we can see in real time is that you'll notice spikes of growth on both of these around what would have been the fourth to sixth sessions that they had with us, right? I think this is important to note that we sometimes wonder how long should an internship or an apprenticeship program be? Well, if most people are going to have the most rapid growth between weeks 4 and 6, we understand that it took about 3, 4 weeks of those lessons that we've been teaching to set in, and people are being able to grow, but we also see a regression. So, and that would probably one of the things we're understanding is that once they've learned the skill, we let them independently do that skill, right? Because we mentioned at about the 6 week mark is when they choose their positions. And so they're expected to work a bit more independently on the things that they've learned in the beginning half of the internship. The regression is probably going into that independence. But what I do think is interesting about the data, and if you look at it, it jumps back up, which means that the independence is needed, the stepping back after someone has learned the skill and letting them come back, they will come back up on their learning. So as Jenna mentioned, they might have been at a 3 for time management, and then they went to a 4 because we've been training it. But then when we independently were like, okay, you're gonna have to, from start to finish, come in and get ready, clock in, take your breaks on time. They drop back down to a 3. With coaching, we get them back up to the 4, but in like letting them realize that without that support, um, it helps us just understand as well when we plateau. You can see what's interesting about that is that there is a plateau of our growth, and then we have the regressions bringing them back up. Till then, we have a jump at the end of the internships, of that they've learned something in practice. Now they've done it independently or interdependently with support. And then at the end of those 12 weeks, they're able to go up to about 70 points of their total score. So when we talk about that session to session of the 16 competencies, we rank their scores for every session. And so we started with folks who have an average of 35, 36 points. And over the course of 12 weeks, they can get up to about 68 points. That's 50% increase on skill development here. Um, and the question then follows, it's like, we can look at our models and decide, hey, when would be a good time to introduce something within the session, just understanding that there's so much variability towards the end during that interdependence phase. Um, So yeah, independently, these two charts offer strong proof point that we can lead to meaningful skill development, and we can track how different coaches' phases impact the intern's momentum, which allows us to refine our pacing, our structure, our check-ins, and design coaching models that match the natural rhythm of learning. So I felt like these were very and you guys look at those. Here's, if you want to see it written and recapped of what I said, consistent progress. Growth is steady and cumulative, not random. And interns improve session by session. We know that between session 4 and 6 shows a clear spike in growth, followed by a plateau. These are key windows to stick with someone for that structured support um, because we know that they can come back up. And it confirms our coaching model produces measurable time-based results and supports refining pacing and structuring the curriculum around when growth actually happens, and then informs when scheduled check-ins, evaluations, and skill intensive for maximum input, which we would overlay that with the heat correlation or bundles of success clusters of when we would want to bring in those modules. So we can lay over that data with this one. Um, yeah, so the road ahead. Um, with this information, we are excited to have the feedback loop of what it is that we're doing and how it's translating for the individual, how we can refine that process. Um, but I think that we know and what we want to add, I think additionally, what we want to add and what we think we can push through. Um, but what does that mean? So, in conclusion, we found that the dirt coaching model works, which we're excited about, right? I think we went from this intuitive, like we know we're doing good work. I think many of us know we're doing good work, but can you track it? Can you measure it and definitively say that you were able to move growth? You can. That's the good news, right? We can push folks to shift their focus to improve employment outcomes for neurodivergent folks through vocational programs that move beyond those, what we stated in the beginning, just like a very structured training or one that is just task based and blending the two. And then you can track that to develop covering the soft, the social, the workplace readiness that is essential to make someone truly job ready. And then we can feel confident that along many disciplines, I think us being in social sciences, it's really important that we start having more research that is data driven, that we can prove that this isn't just a great program to have in your community, right? But what are the actual intended impact of that program that can be measurable? And we all love that because that also helps us with funding, y'all. All right, it's always the question we get asked, where are your numbers? But I think that that data-driven growth and implementing a structured rubric, as we have done here, based on our environment, right, for our job seekers, the jobs that they're interested in going to, the employers that are working with us, based on the research coming out of Colorado, we base this rubric on. Yours might look a little different based on where you are. So think of that just geographically, demographically, what kind of environmental assessments would you be doing in your um, location and working for your job seekers, right? Um, and then with that, you can, it brings a level of rigor and accountability that I think has been long missing of what we're working on and enables us to make data-driven decisions on how we should change something, not just because someone thought that, oh, you know what would be really great if we added this, new skill for them to learn, but why? Right? Like, can we make more educated decisions and use a coaching that ensures continuous feedback loops in coaching and celebrates the incremental improvements, right? So if a job coach, as you saw before, what happens when you're working with someone and they're doing so well and you come back the next session and it's like they completely forgot what we taught and you're just like, oh no, but you can stay confident in knowing that that is normal. right? That is okay. Stick with what you're doing because we saw it rises. The growth will rise again. You're going to have some moments of regression. Be comfortable with that. Don't think that you're taking a step back and they've truly forgotten everything because the data shows they haven't, right? It just shows we have to be consistent in that moment and celebrates the incremental improvements. And not only helps the intern grow, but gives the program staff concrete insights to refine their training curriculum and feel confident in their training because we want them to feel confident as well. Um, so, coaching model, it works, tracking it. We have the data to prove it. Competencies improve in clusters, not isolation, allowing for modular strategic coaching. By aligning real employer needs, we're not just training interns, we're preparing them for job readiness. And this is how we build systems that track and recognize the growth that is meaningful. For me, the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Jenna is um, vocational rehabilitation professionals, I think, should advocate for more adopted structural competency development tools within their program. And I think it pays off in dividends of the interns who are more confident, the coaches who can provide more effective support by tracking these and nurturing the skills that matter, where we're empowering people to feel not only that they can get hired, but they can build lasting careers in the community. They can find a space where they are celebrated and that they have community and feel dignified with the work that they're doing because they chose that job in a competitive integrated setting and fulfilling that for them.
And just to wrap up a little bit, Kat is talking about this data in front of you that proves what we're doing is effective with our interns, and we would like to see that in other vocational rehabilitation programs. And as voc rehab professionals, also understanding if you are a counselor working with individuals and managing a caseload, and understanding you probably have 100 clients on that caseload or more, and being able to manage and understand each and every person and helping them grow within their career, how can you be working with the vendors and the service providers to be adopting something like this to have more effective growth within individuals for work adjustment trainings and situational assessments, and really understanding at the root of it, what is it that they're learning and what is it that they're growing? And by the end of the internship, we do share that with voc rehab counselors and say, hey, here's what we were able to measure this percentage of growth by the end of the internship. And here's our recommendations for employment, right? We are able to say this person is ready for competitive integrated employment. And we think they would do well in this type of environment with these types of support systems. And here are some of the skills they should continue to work on that, they're not excelling in yet. However, we were still able to see that growth. We do get some folks who also go into customized employment and other employment settings that are not competitive integrated employment. And how can we help them move into that and help build a visual resume and move into whatever next step that is for that person? What we've learned, both us individually, when we're seeing our interns, what's cool is we get to see them every day and actually see this growth in real time as well, is that I am not trying to get somebody from point A to point Z. I'm understanding where they're at in real time and trying to take them to that next level, take them one step. So that could be from zero job experience to having a real world, experience working in a competitive environment with customers, or somebody who has had that. Now let's level them up and take them to the next step of their career journey and help them find that long-term placement in the community. I appreciate all of you joining us. We're going to open up to questions in just a moment, share the page of citations journals we gathered research from, and put this together with.
Mhm.
You want to share
Yeah.
anything about that?
On a show where a lot of the background information came from as we were building out this data. And I think importantly within all of these, if anybody's ever read peer-reviewed journal articles, they always say more research is needed. And we love that because that's what we're here for. Thank you, everyone, for the work that you're doing in the community. We're honored to be a part of this community, and we're excited to keep learning and building and sharing what we have going on. And we are very welcome for questions and anything that we can do to help y'all as well. Sharing is caring. Yeah, I ended it like that. Mhm. All right. Last, there is a survey. If you do have time, if you may have noticed, we like feedback. We like knowing what went well. You know, we have our perspectives, and you can always help build a more inclusive wider breadth of knowledge by giving us information. We take it all in. Feedback is good. With that, I know that we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions.
We do have a question from someone at home. Um, what are the most common jobs that interns take after completing the program?
Great question. I would say majority of our individuals begin in those entry level positions, and oftentimes I see them in retail and hospitality related fields. So that could be larger corporations, somewhere like a grocery store, somewhere like that. But we also see a lot of folks going back to school. We get quite a few of our participants who want to work in like an elementary education field, working with children. Or library sciences and engineering, but the most common to step next into is retail to gain more experience.
Hospitality and retail, which I make a motion of making sure that that is a position that they're wanting to have in a place that they want to have it, and not just places that have been designated for hiring neurodivergent folks. But in Colorado, you can find a list of all the jobs that have the most openings, and hospitality and retail is listed third in the top three. And I think that is a great job for people to take the skills that they've learned with us and practice them and move up in positions. But as Jenna said, because of the support needs of everybody coming in, and that it is very diverse in our program, we'll have people who are in college, but because they've never had a job or really thought about the intentionality of a job, like, you have to have a schedule, you have to show up, right? It's really different. So we had someone who was going through civil engineering, and they went through our program, and they were like, this was really helpful because I know I'm going to need these skills, the social skills, and being and working with a team. And so there's growth for everyone, but that would be top
Yeah.
retail and hospitality. Any questions?
Oh, hold on one second.
How long is the internship?
Yes, the internship is 12 weeks. Yeah.
The 12 weeks on?
It ranges for the intern. Jenna can talk a little bit more.
That's where that customized model really comes into play. We have some folks who might only work once a week because that might be somebody who's in that supported employment model and looking more for that customized employment and is working on the stamina and the work tolerance, right? And then we get other folks who work more than once a week, longer hours, things like that. So it's really customized to the individual. So the sessions really, really range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1 to 2 a week for 12 weeks that they're with us.
There are a couple questions that people are very interested in your rubric and wondering if that is available publicly.
Great question. We are happy to share it one-on-one with folks. It is not available publicly at this time.
And if they want to connect with you, how do they do so?
This QR code here, you can put your name and email, and you can ask for a consultation. And we are happy to walk you through the rubric.
Yeah.
We're so excited. Yeah. And like I said, with those rubrics, you might find that you need to customly build out some of those pieces based on the folks that you're working with, demographics, what your state is looking for in terms of employment, and the relations you have with your employers.
A few people are also interested. I think the PowerPoint that was made available online, I think there's been some changes to it. Is it okay if they also contact you via that for the updated point?
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, we'll be around for the day for those of you in person, and we thank you so much for coming in and listening to the work that we're doing. We hope to share more with you in time to come.
Hold on, we have one more question.
Just kidding.
I know. How many states are you in? Do you get referrals for interns out of state?
We are right now only in Colorado, in the Denver metro area, offering that in-person service model. but we do work with employers out in the community, businesses that are outside Colorado and franchised elsewhere. And we are often getting requests for different counties, especially in Colorado and outside Colorado. So, keeping in mind that we could expand some of this rubric tracking and skill development elsewhere, but we will primarily be providing that service model within the Denver metro area. Yeah.
And last question, if VR funds an intern, what services are you billing them for to support the interns?
Yes, that ranges depending on the individual and their service plan, but the most common is work adjustment training and situational assessment. And then we also offer job placement services and job development once somebody is ready to go into the job search model.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.